All right. Shalom to each and everybody. Namaste to you. What an amazing time to be alive, folks. There is so much beauty that is hidden, and we're going to find out about why that is on several levels today. So much is going on, and yet the more that you see, the more you're responsible to deal with what you see. And that's kind of a bummer for a lot of people. Other people embrace it massively. And so, no matter which one you are, the truth is still being brought out. It's simply up to us to choose to see truth or to make a choice about seeing something other. It is clearly manifested. Paul said that. It is clearly manifested who God is and what God is. And so this is kind of with this process tonight. He's hidden and yet he's everywhere. He's unknown and yet he's totally known. And there are some things in there that may not necessarily sit equally well for everyone. Some people want to think that nothing that they can do could cause them to be cast aside. Even the Bible scripture never says that you can't separate from God. It simply says God will never be the initiator of separating from you. And that's a totally different statement. So, as we go, I'm going to continue to teach truth and to show truth and to bring light as Source brings it to me and opens my eyes and reveals always beforehand, I assure you. So, we left off on page 14, and I broke at a paragraph marking. Though unmanifest, God is most manifest. And before we jump into that, I want to read just a few verses. If you have it, read it with me. If you don't, just relax your mind and open your heart. Folks, it's time for people to begin to get out of the physical and to begin to move. Truly, the spiritual realm is more real than the physical realm, but unfortunately, the mass majority of people have a corrupt, if they have one at all, it's corrupt about what that statement, the spiritual realm, means. And so it is a big piece. It is quite important that we learn those things. That is, if we desire to be successful with Source. Source's success doesn't have anything to do with us. Our success has to do with him. Yet again, another paradox. So I want to read this to you from verse 10 on section 4. It says, the like's superiority to the unlike and the unlike's inferiority to the like consists in this: the oneness being Source. So I know that there's been some contention, questions both that have been asked and questions that haven't been asked, just dependent on who the people were. But I think probably the mass majority of people who have made it to this point are still kind of curious. I make a statement like there is no God like you were taught, and indeed there isn't, although there are many gods. There is a fixed place in existence for each and every one of those beings, as well as the superiority of Source always is and always will be. So at that level, if you needed to see Source as an external God because that's as far as your mind can deal with things, then you certainly haven't sinned a great sin, because you maintain that. For many people, the programming of 40, 50, 60 years of Christianity may never totally bleed itself out of you. But if you have an open mind and an open heart, I promise you Source will bring pieces that will help you to do that if you choose to. And so the oneness being Source and root of all is in all things as root and source. Everything that was created, and without him there was nothing created. And that concept, while it has been hijacked by Christianity, is still a correct and true statement. So as I shared with y'all a few weeks ago, that the understanding is that no one's going to have all of the truth. Some people are more hungry, some people are less hungry, some people really could care less. And I've encountered all of the above. But for those that do care, they will hear and see pieces that the universe brings to them to be like a tidbit to draw them along. And he talks about that here in a second, so you'll see how that's very, very pertinent to us. In other words, we haven't been left out there. We've been very poor students in recognizing and perception of what reality, truth, and source even is. And so that's in the process for some of being changed, and for others it's not really changing at all. And those are certainly based on who you are as a human and what your desires are. So the oneness being source and root of all is in all things as root and source, and without this source is nothing. Okay, so that's not so foreign from what we taught, but as you see what he's saying, it definitely diverges from the Christian concept. So it's like when I say, what does that mean? It's really important we know what that means. And so he says, whereas the source itself is from nothing but itself, since it is source. Of all the rest, it is itself its source, since it may have no other source. So anything that would be in source that is not source is not in source, because if it was, then it wouldn't be source. So it's kind of funny because we get programmed by Anunnaki, we get programmed by Christianity, we get programmed by family, and it is impossible to program source because there's nothing in source that's not him. There is a lot inside of you as a human that you maybe acknowledge, and some of it you may not acknowledge, which is why shadow work is so important. It's simply the acknowledging of what is inside of you, and for many people that's way too scary to talk about. And so, although it's really not scary at all, you simply have set a reality that shadow work, looking at myself too deeply, is a bad thing. And as long as you keep that belief system, that will remain your reality. But you can change it. And so, the oneness then being source containeth every number, but is contained by none, engendereth every number, but is engendered by no other one. Now, all that is engendered is imperfect. It is divisible. To increase subject and to decrease. But with the perfect one, none of these things doth hold or remain to be a truth. Now, with that which is increasable increases from the oneness, but succumbs through its own feebleness. And so we increase through source, and we collapse through ourselves. So God is not what is making you collapse. You are what is making you collapse. God is the one that is continuing to sustain you while you are feeble or while you are collapsing. If he let you go, you would cease to exist. And so even when you think that you're being a bad boy or a bad girl and you don't care what right says, doesn't change a thing. The only thing that changes is your reality. It's really hard for a lot of people to get a hold of this concept that you are, by your thoughts, actions, and deeds, you are creating the hell that you live in if you're living in hell. If you're unhappy, if you hate people, if you hate doing right, all of those things came from your mind, not from anywhere else. Maybe somebody seeded you, but you allowed your mind to accept that seed instead of rejecting it. And so, it goes on every day. I promise you, our youth are full of this sickness. And so, everything that is engendered is imperfect and is divisible. some of this, whether you know it, we're talking about in the spirit realm, but to be quite honest with you folks, some of this stuff is actually an outworking of what we're seeing going on in our society about gender. Okay? What is gender? Gender is divisible. What is it divisible? It's divisible into male and female. And so the weakness and feebleness of humanity is at a place in history where they are beginning to have a problem rationalizing which is what. I mean, when you have a Supreme Court judge who's had 2 babies and can't tell you what a woman is, folks, we got a messed up society. So we're going to continue to go on because those people may affect our lives, but they don't control our lives. You control your life. You are the captain of a mean and rugged ship. That mean and rugged ship, Donnie Van Zant says, is you. And so, and now, O Tat, God's image has been sketched for you as far as it can be. And if thou wilt attentively dwell on it and observe it with thine heart's eyes. If you are looking and you think you're being spiritual and you're looking around to see God, folks, you're never going to find what you're looking for. It's not going to happen. You don't ever see him. You see him. And so, if you will observe it with your heart's eye, believe me, son, thou wilt find the path that leads above. Some would tell you that that's ascension. It is ascension. Some would tell you that that's higher self. It is higher self. And so, did I jump again? Nope. And now that God's image has been sketched for thee as far as can be, and thou wilt attentively dwell on it and observe. An intentional act. That's why you hear a lot of the spiritual world. They have many pieces right, folks. So I know that it sounds like I'm hard. I am, because there's just as much corruption as there is in Christianity, but it's just exactly like Christianity. There is a lot of truth contained both in their doctrines and teachings, but as well as in the Bible. It is the same in the spirit world. There are many things that are, how do I say it kindly, less than honest. And so, and they dwell on it and observe it with thine heart's eye. Believe me, son, thou wilt find the path that leads above. Nay, that image shall become your guide. So what is truly guiding you is source. This is one of those pieces that we get into, and it's really been coming up a lot lately about all of these so-called spiritual gurus telling you about your spirit guides. And the truth of the matter is when I tell you source told me something, an archon did not tell me that. It came from the one who knows. Okay? And that's true for many people, but it's not true for everybody. And so, the image that we focus on of source, which is what this whole concept is about, which is why I had to do this, shall become your guide itself, because the sight divine hath this peculiar charm. It holdeth fast and draweth unto it those who succeed in opening their eyes. Now, I would like for you to take the reality of what that says. First off, it is no promise that anyone is going to. It is only that it is potential for all human beings if they choose to do the work to open their eyes. And it's psychological, it's spiritual, it's physical. It's not just one thing. It is everything. So you can be very inclined intellectually and still be spiritually dead. You can be spiritually alive and dumb as a rock. It is for you to open your eyes is you. I don't know how to explain that because I know what I experience and how it works for me, and I know that that isn't the way that it works for everybody. I don't question, and he's always been with me. And now that I understand that, I look back and see thousands of times where he spoke to me, and I had no idea where that came from. But I've been on a journey as long as I've been here. I don't know where you've been or what you've been doing, but I have been on a journey to source as long as I've been here. And so it has a peculiar charm that it draws those people who will open their eyes to him. Wow. So maybe it's not so far-fetched in the Bible when Jesus says that there are other people that are not of that fold. In fact, that fold could very easily be talking about those that are not human. But we don't understand anything, so we have no ability to rationalize or reason things that are archaic, which is one of the signs of intelligence and higher intelligence. The Sumerians had the ability to reason abstract situations in their life. Most people walk up and they're like a calf at a new gate, and they get confused. As soon as you take their holy cows away from them, they have nothing else to offer themselves. And that's not a condemnation. It's actually that coming to that understanding is part of opening your eyes. And so I love this peculiar charm that draweth unto it those who succeed in opening their eyes, just as they say, the magnet draws iron. And I will tell you that principle is taught over and over again, especially in the New Testament. Of course, it's a corrupted Gnostic document. I hope you understand that by now. Massively corrupted Gnostic document. But that principle, we're told over and over again about the drawing, and no man comes to God except he be drawn. How the heck do you not get that? And so I will recount, this is, though unmanifest, God is most manifest. I will recount to thee this sermon, Logos 2. O Tat, that thou mayest cease to be without the mysteries of the God beyond all name. There is no name. We have a name we call Source. He is the source and the concept, but that's still not his name. All we are doing is speaking of his attribute. He is the creator of everything. It doesn't mean he created humans, although he allowed humans to be created. But we were not created by him, which is exactly what the Bible wants you to believe. And it's not true, and it's never been true, and it's never going to be true. And so I will recount to you this holy word, this Logos, this sermon. For all that is made manifest is subject to, I did it again, that thou mayest cease to be without the mysteries of the God beyond all name, and mark thou well how that which to many seems unmanifest will grow most manifest for you. So you see immediately in all of Trismegistus's concept of trying to teach Tat, and it's really irrelevant whether this is a blood son or whether this is a son, because spiritual sons in many ways are often closer than blood children are. Not always, but sometimes that does happen with special spiritual children. And so we can put ourselves in a place of amazingness really quickly, but we also can lock ourselves outside of that forever simply with your thoughts. And that's a hard thing to deal with, but it is truth. Your thoughts are everything. And so now where it manifests, it would not be. For all that is made manifest is subject to becoming. When you hear people talk about manifestation, the manifestation doesn't happen until it becomes. If you're believing and you're doing all of the mind things psychology is teaching you, I'm not quite convinced that there's a lot of that that's right, but It's better than anything else anybody else has. At least it gets your mind thinking on source, which is exactly what Trismegistus just told him to do. When your heart's eye will think on him. And so, most people go through life and they're spiritual for about 30, 40 minutes a week, and that's the end of it. And if that's the only time you think about source, that's all that relationship you have with him. A relationship with the Spirit is constant, ongoing. It never ceases. In fact, if you find that it feels as if it ceases, you will begin, if anything, to have to control yourself from fear, because when it does happen in the quietness after you constantly are in communion with Source, and Source decides to be quiet and contemplate you for a bit, it gets very scary. And you ask yourself, and I've heard people do this a lot, and I've certainly done it. Where are you, God? Did you leave me? Have I done something to piss you off? It really, for us humans, really doesn't sit well at all. And especially after you've experienced that, it's the most nightmarish thing you could ever imagine. Although Source is there, he's never left you. The lack of feeling connection, and most of that lack, I hate to say this because I'm speaking about me, most of that lack of connection is that you disconnected. You disconnected in your mind. God didn't tell you, he didn't pat you on the head and pat your little butt when he put a new diaper on in the way you wanted to, and so you disconnect from the only thing that matters. And then you get scared because you feel lonely. I know, I go through this kind of stuff constantly. And so, now where it is manifest, it would not be, for all that is made manifest is subject to becoming, for it hath been made manifest. But the unmanifest forever is, for it doth not desire to be made manifest, it ever is, and maketh manifest all other things. And that's why I kind of said that, although I know that this is really big popular thing. Lots of money being made on manifestation. If you'll just think in the right positive note and hold that intention for the next 35 years, you will be a multimillionaire if you believe it. Okay? And that's in a nutshell modern manifestation. It's amazing that Trismegistus teaches a totally different concept. He says manifest is just an outworking of what's not manifest, and what's not manifest is always. Think about that. There was a monk, and he wanted to bring the Vedic teachings to America, and of course, as you can imagine, that costs a lot of money, and monks aren't all about money. They're about peace and introspection and learning who self is and becoming aware and all of those things, which are all really positive things, although they're not the full truth. And so he wanted to do that, and one of his sensei, whatever the heck they call those, a lesser one that was under him, a student of his, asked him. He said, how are you going to afford to pay it? And he looked. This is so appropriate because I heard it, and it really didn't hit me like it does right now after reading what Trismegistus said. He said, the money that I need already exists. Nobody has to make the money that I need. I simply need it to come to me. And man, that is such a powerful concept, because what you don't have, you don't need. What you do have is what you need, or you wouldn't have it. That's big boy language, but can you grab a hold of that reality? You've lived your whole life trying to get everything you don't have, and you've wasted all of your time chasing something that you yourself could never possess. It can only come when it is given to you. Now, you can go buy the things, and you can go work and kill yourself, and we do have to work, and sometimes we kill ourselves. That's not the same as someone that's chasing money so they can buy more things. And so now, where it manifests, it would not be, for all that is made manifest is subject to becoming, for it hath been made manifest. But the unmanifest forever is, for it doth not desire to be made manifest. It ever is, and maketh manifest all other things. Being himself unmanifest, as ever being and ever making manifest, himself is not made manifest. God not made himself by thinking manifest, he thinketh all things manifest. So I hate to say this on a spiritual level, and I wouldn't have a desire to argue with them. I believe they'll teach what they teach, and they will rape millions of people. And if you want to be raped, then by all means, you should go on every retreat that they have until you have no money left. And you won't be any richer any more than everybody who gave all their money to Kenneth Copeland has 20 airplanes. We really are controlled by our carnal. And so, now, thinking manifest deals with things made alone. For thinking manifest is nothing else than making. And so, to tie those pieces together, what Trismegistus just said is the principle that is being taught. The problem is the principle is correct, the teaching of it is corrupted. Just as the principle of many of the Bible things are correct, the teaching of it is corrupted. And so, he then thus alone, who is not made, 'tis clear, is both beyond all power of thinking, manifest, and is unmanifest. So no matter how strong your intentions are, and how much your coherence is, and you're never going to get God to come and poof in front of you and show you. It ain't going to happen. It would totally destroy everything that exists if Source quit being who Source is. And Source says, I am unmanifest. You'll never see me. You have to feel me. You have to know me from the inner side. And so, and as he thinketh, all things manifest. So once again, that's a right piece. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You are manifesting what you're thinking. He manifests through all things and in all things, and most of all in whatsoever things he wills to manifest. So some of the things that people sit and spend years and suffer and go through and question and doubt and all of these things, Source just simply says, it's not my will for that to, no matter how much you want that, you're never going to get it from me. It's not my will, and I'm not going to manifest it. And if he says it's not my will and I'm not going to manifest it, you might find some kind of a created thing that appears in your carnal world, but you do understand manifestation isn't carnal, manifestation is spiritual. And it never is about the things. I'll show you this principle in the Bible. I would above all things that you prosper, be in health, even as your soul prospers. It never was about the things. The things mean nothing. What matters is who and what you are inside is the only thing that's important. And so, as Elvis said, you're caught in a trap and you can't walk out. So, do thou then, Tat, my son, pray first unto our Lord and Father. For some of you who may not know, there was a Christ that Sophia is said to have saved herself when she went to, I know now that it would be the Absu. She went to the underworld, which is true, it does exist. The creator of humanity was the king, the controller of the Absu, which is the underworld. And she went down there and she began to suffer, and she came to a point and her reality had to bring itself full, and she cried no monad. In the minute that she cried monad, she was saved. Some of you might see that with your heart and grab. It's really amazing. I've been practicing that for quite a while. There is a God, if you look at it in that manner, but it's not in the concept of Christianity. I've watched thousands of people in my church. I've watched thousands of people pray millions of prayers and never get a thing. There's a lot of reasons for that. But most of the things that come from him come because they're in alignment with him, and most of the things that you'll never receive are because they're not in alignment with his will. So it is fair to say that whatever God wills. So, do thou then, Tat, my son, pray first unto our Lord and Father, the one and the only one, from whom the one doth come, to show his mercy unto thee. To whom the one doth come, to whom we must go. Unto thee, in order that thou mayest have the power to catch a thought of this so mighty God. Listen at those words. You pray unto him that you might catch a thought of him. Wow. That's huge. One single beam of him to shine unto thy thinking, for thought alone sees the unmanifest in that it is itself unmanifest. One thought can change your world. One thought can change your behavior. One thought that you hold on to that was seated in you and you refuse to open your eyes and look at yourself, one thought will keep you living in hell for the rest of your lives. Not a place I want to be. I want to open my eyes. I want to look and be honest. All these people that want to run and say they don't need to change and all of that stuff, those people I have more concern for them than anybody. Not really because I'm concerned, because I already know what's going to happen to them. Thou hast the power of taking thought and seeing it and grasping it in thine own hands. So please, I've been telling you for years. I told this in Christianity before I ever read a Gnostic document. That it's about who you are inside. Everything is about who you are. You can be broke and happier than someone who has all kinds of millions, and it happens every single day. On the other side, if you're right inside, you can enjoy that blessing, that millions that have manifested, and be a blessing to the world around you. How do I know? We have a little company in Austin, Texas that started in a garage, and the guy gives more money away, and he just keeps making it. You know why he keeps making it? Because Source is using him to give it away. Go check how much money Michael Dell and his wife give away every year. It won't take you long to find out. That guy could keep every bit of that like every other millionaire, and he could just be just as unhappy. And when you see them, they're always happy. Oh, we're giving $5 billion to take care of kids with autism. And they do it joyfully. Not because somebody does it so they can get on television and be someone. Ego is killing people, man. I'm sorry, people don't get it and they won't, but ego is killing you. It doesn't matter what you have. That is not what makes you what you are. You make you what you are. So, we have the power of taking thought, of seeing it and grasping it in your own hands. Just so those of you who've been offended because I use the term mindlessness, it's everywhere. It's all over the place. I watch it every day. Mindlessness. And yet here we have ancient documents that tell us, instead of recognizing mindlessness, although that is a very important thing for you to do, you should have that perception. You should have that ability to see insight. It is a huge protector, because even if people hurt you, you still know what the deal is. Okay? But on the other side of that story, that never was the story. That's why what the Sumerian wrote is so far above 99% of the people that live on the earth, because those people's minds were so clear and so connected to the spirit realm compared to ours. It was crazy. One of the tablets I watched said that it was normal 5,000 years ago for children to go nightly to the spirit realm in their sleep. They would come back and tell stories of things that they saw. all children. What do we do in our society? Parents crush that out of them because Christianity said it's devil worship. I don't know if you guys realize how much damage has been done to humanity by religion. And so, do thou then, O Tat, my son, pray first unto the Lord and Father, the one and the only one, from whom the one doth come, to show his mercy upon thee. I've been quoting something that's been powerful. It just came recently, like a couple weeks. And I was going through something one day, and man, the scripture that David used, and I got it. David wasn't talking about religion. David was talking about connection. And he came to a place inside of him where he had confidence. He knew. It wasn't something he had to make himself believe. It just existed in him. And his answer for the struggles he was going to is surely, goodness and mercy will follow me every day of my life. And the minute I started speaking that over myself, I started watching things change. David was also a mystic, if there was a David. And so, in order that thou mayest have the power to catch a thought of this mighty God, of this so mighty God, one single beam of him to shine into your thinking. For thought alone sees the unmanifest in that it is itself unmanifest. If then thou hast the power, he will manifest to thy mind's eye. The Lord begrudgeth not himself to anything. Dig that. There's nothing that's off limits to God. Wow. One single beam. If then thou hast power, he will manifest to your mind's eye. Who's doing this? I want you to get this, because we got this backwards. Source is proactive about all that he does. And I do believe that there is a place where the heart is true and pure, and that is probably what motivates Source's will towards you. Versus because he knows everything about you. He knows all the words you say when no one's around. He knows all the words you say that never come out of your mouth. All of those things are like modern TV exploded all over New York City in Source's mind about you. That's why people don't get it. Why are they sabotaging themselves? They're sabotaging themselves and they never said a word. They're destroying themselves and they won't even accept it. In fact, if you tell them that, they'll walk off and call you a liar, which is pretty obvious that it's true. And so we have the power of taking thought and seeing it and grasping it with our own hands. But if you would see him, bethink thee of the sun, bethink thee of the moon's course, bethink thee of the order of the stars. Who is the one who watcheth over that order? Just so you know, folks, we have been brainwashed into mindlessness about the power that existed in the stars. And that's coming back out again, and is coming through the Sumerian work and the Akkadian and the Babylonian. The Jews knew a lot of the star stuff, and they used a lot of that stuff, which wasn't anything but a third generation from Sumerian teachings. Ezra, the priest, went and had a spiritual connection out in the middle of the world. He fulfilled everything I'm reading to you if you go read the book of Ezra. He was a mystic. He might have been a Jew, but he was a Jewish mystic. So if thou see him, bethink thee of the sun, bethink thee of the moon's course, bethink thee of the stars. Who is the one who watcheth over all order? For every order hath its boundaries and marked out by place and number. So they all are important, which is the point I'm trying to make to you. Astrology is not devil worship. Is there some of it that has been corrupted? Yes. Absolutely. But there's some of everything that's been corrupted. Your job is to find out what the truth is. It's not his job. He already knows what the truth is. And so, but if thou wouldest see him, bethink thee of the sun. How many of you have ever thought and looked at that great heat that is put in a perfect place so that it keeps the earth, and that the earth was stopped? And I'm speaking now about things that most of you probably don't know, but the earth was stopped on its journey, and even in that journey and locked into the sun in orbit, it was still in a perfect alignment from where humans were. The earth is a ball of consciousness. That's why we are conscious. Just so you know. It was actually sent somewhere else, not where we are. And that's another story. That's why when Anki had the woman treading the mud, and you never hear about the divine spark, it didn't come from the Anunnakis. We have got a God blood in us, so that is a fact. But that's not the divine spark. The divine spark came from the earth. Mother Earth, I might say. And so, the Son's greatest God of gods in heaven, to whom all of the heavenly gods give place as unto king and master. And he, this so great one, he greater than the earth and the sea, endures to have above him circling smaller stars than him, out of respect to whom, or out of fear of whom, my son, doth he do this. Nor like equal is the course each of these stars described in heaven. Who then is he who marketh out the manner of their course and its extent? The bear up there that turneth round itself and carries round the whole cosmos with it, who is the owner of this instrument? Once again, I'm starting to see a lot of Sumerian cosmology that actually is played in that I never saw it, is that we view things as being things tangible to the human mind. Everything that was created by source that exists is a tool for a purpose, including you. And until your mind can be enlightened, that you can begin to rationalize and grab that as a reality, that everything has a purpose or it does not exist. There is no purposeless human. There is only humans who are not interested in their purpose. You have a purpose. I have a purpose. I know what my purpose is. I'm not seeking for it. I know it. I'm living it. And so should you be. And so, he who hath set on its seat the earth. For tat, there is someone who is the maker and the Lord of all of these things. It could not be that number, place, and measure could be kept without someone to make them. No order whatsoever could be made by that which lacketh place and lacketh measure. Nay, even this is not without a Lord, my son. For if the orderless lacks something in that it is not Lord of order's path, it also is beneath a Lord, the one who hath not yet ordained its order. Would that it were possible for thee to get thee wings and soar into the air and poise midway between earth and heaven. Behold the earth's solidity and the sea's fluidity, the flowings of its streams and the spaciousness of air and fire's swiftness, and all of the coursing of the stars and the swiftness of heaven's circuits round them. Most blessed sight were it, my son, to see all of these beneath one sway. The motionless is motion. See, the lack of something to you means that you do not possess it. That's not a right cosmology. The motionless is motion, and the unmanifest made manifest. whereby is made this order of the cosmos, and the cosmos which we see of order. So we like to, and I've said this, I've kind of alluded to it, and it's probably a little heavy for some people to deal with, but everything that's happening on this earth is all part of fate. For those of you who may not know, that the Anunnaki were the ones they were actually the ones who created fate. You say, well, what is fate? I've spoken about this, but it's really critical, and it really will revolutionize your mind, because it then takes away happenstance and it puts you in a position of either being king or slave. And if you are a king and you know you're a king, then a slave is a really not place you want to be. And so there are fates that have been predetermined for thousands of years, that places in your life that you're going to end up with decisions that you have to make. You have no control over that. You couldn't stop it if you wanted to. It is granted that you will be at this place at this time. As Source said to me standing right here in front of these stairs not 6 months ago, we're glad you got here. He said that because it was predetermined that I would be here at this time. Fate. Now, fate, as I'm sharing it with you, is not the cosmology of what you would learn from a human as far as what fate supposedly is. Because fate doesn't have a locked destiny. It only has a locked arrival. So when you are walking in fate, fate can either be that you went and you did what was right and you were blessed exceedingly, or you botched the whole thing, and because of who you are and who you're not, you ended up turning fate into something that was negative. Okay, for all of those guys that have been married and they go, how did I ever meet this woman? They did not meet that woman by accident. They did not have a connection by her by accident. That was fate. What wasn't fate is how they were going to behave. That's the potential. And every one of us possess the potential to create that which we are. We can't create what we're not. If you're not a good person, you can try until you die, and you're never going to be a good person. That comes from inside of you. And that may be one of the most profound statements that I've ever made. If you would allow your higher self to control you, could you become a good person? Higher self is always a good person. You're not higher self. You must sink and open up and release and die. That's why Paul said that you must die daily. Who are you dying to? You're dying daily to your flesh, so that you may have room for more of higher self to come out. And then it moves out in love, and you get changed, and then you become, which is a really, really amazing concept, because we're all works in progresses. Some people may not make it to where they could have ended up in this lifetime. Not because everything that they needed wasn't there, simply because they weren't there. And so, you know, if you already struggle with self-esteem and all of those conscious thought processes, psychological human failures, if you already struggle with those things, it's going to be really hard because you're going to see everything as negative that is positive. That's why I struggle so much with all of the people that walk around telling everybody about being positive. They do not understand that authenticity is positive, whether it's good or bad. That's also another thing that most people's minds can't deal with, but it is a very truth. Authenticity trumps everything. So if you're unhappy about something, then you ought to be authentic about it. You shouldn't hide it. And that's a lesson that's hard, because we've been so trained to let our ego control us, and many people have an ego that opens mouth and thinks afterwards. That's a different thing. That is not what I'm talking about. And so, if thou wouldest see him too through the things that suffer death, I did it again. I'm going to have to get this printed out where it's big enough. My old eyes, these little bitty letters are hard sometimes. Okay, he says, for tat, there is someone who is the maker and Lord of all things. I count not that number, place and measure. Could be kept without someone to make them. No order whatsoever could be made by that which lacketh place and lacketh measure. Nay, even this is not without a Lord, my son. For if the orderless lacks something, in that it is not Lord of order's path, it also is beneath the Lord, the one who hath not yet ordained it order. Would that it were possible for thee to get these wings and soar into the air and poise midway between heaven and earth, and behold the earth's solidity and the sea's fluidity and the flowings of its streams and the spaciousness of air and fire's swiftness and the coursing of the stars, the swiftness of heaven's circuits round them. Most blessed sight were it, my son, to see all of these beneath one sway. The motionless is motion, and the unmanifest is manifest, whereby is made this order of the cosmos, and the cosmos which we see of order. If thou wouldest see him too through things that suffer death, both on the earth and in the deep, think of a man being fashioned in the womb, my son, and strictly scrutinize the art of him who fashions him, and learn who fashioneth this fair and godly image of the man. Who then is he who traceth out the circles of the eyes, who he hath boreth out the nostrils and the ears, who he hath opened the portal of the mouth, who he doth stretch out and the tie the nerves, who channels out the veins, who he hardeneth the bones, who he covereth the flesh with skin, who he separates the fingers and the joints, who widens out the tread of the feet, he who diggeth through out the ducts, who separateth out the spleen, he who shapeth the heart like a pyramid, who setteth together, who wideneth the liver out, who maketh lungs like a sponge, who maketh the belly stretch so much, who doth make prominent the parts most honorable, so that they may be seen, while hiding out of sight those of least honor. That's another place where that is a teaching that Paul teaches that actually came from earlier ancient teachings. It wasn't it might have been a new revelation to Paul, but it was not something specifically held. It was an ancient teaching. Behold now how many arts employed on one material, how many laborers on one single sketch, all exceeding fair and all in perfect measure, yet all diversified. Who made them all? What mother or what sire, save God alone, unmanifest, who hath made all things by his will? And no one saith a statue or a picture comes to be without a sculptor or without a painter. Doth then its workmanship as this exist without a worker? What depth of blindness, what depth of impiety, what depth of ignorance? See then, thou ne'er, son, deprivest works of worker. Nay, rather is he greater than all of the names. So great is he that father of them all, for verily he is the only one, and this is his work, to be a father. So if thou forcest me somewhat too bold to speak, his being is conceived of all things and making them. And as without its maker it is impossible that anything should be, so ever is he not, unless he ever maketh things in heaven, in air, in earth, in deep, in all of the cosmos, in every part that is, and that is not everything, for there is naught in all of the world that he is not. So, just so you know, all of these beings, and there was a statement made a week ago in what I was sharing with y'all, that everything that exists exists because of source. So when we look back, and it totally changes as I begin to learn these things about how the worldview was and stuff. The Anunnaki, friends, were made by source, just as we were all part of source. It was source's will. All of the aeons that we read, that Yeshua believed, that the Gnostics taught, that John taught, all of those aeons are Anunnakis, and there's millions of other ones that have names and have functions and have shapes and have lives and have abilities, and they all exist. And they're part of him. That's the thing that we miss. So you hear somebody stand up with supposed power and tell you that everything that exists outside of this earth is a demon because of the lies that they've been programmed through in religion, and they just made themselves a fool to be laughed at because it shows their ignorance. Everything that exists because of source. Everything. Every star, every molecule, every bit of energy, everything came into being because of his will. Aliens were his will. And they're not aliens to him. They're only aliens to us. To him, they are aeons that were created in other cosmos. And there's many. And so it really helps to, if you can begin to grasp that and understand that, it does tie to a piece that is truth that's being taught in modern spiritualism, and that is that we are all connected. Whether you know it or not, we are all connected to the Anunnaki. Whether you know it or not, we are all connected to the Lemurians. We are all connected to the Atlanteans. We are all connected to the Galactic Federation. We are all connected to those from Sirius. We are all connected. Why? Because everything is in source, and if you are in source, you may have a name you call yourself, but that name is irrelevant to source, because the truth of the matter is you are source. Some people should be jumping and dancing. Most people are just, their jaw is on the ground. So, he is himself both things that are and things that are not. Perfect way to come right back to that. The things that are he hath made manifest. He keepeth things that are not. Where? In himself. So the manifestation thing, if you begin to look at it from the right cosmology, you begin to understand then why I can say that they're selling you. There are pieces of maybe how you bring something into reality to you that they are selling, and they are teaching minds. So that part of it is correct. But there is so much more that's about bringing things into our life that are important, that have nothing to do with things. We are hung up on things. Why? Because we want things. Why? Because we're carnally minded. Why? Because that's as far as our intelligence will allow us. That's why it's special people who can go outside of the realm of carnal into spirit. And so, the things that are he hath made manifest, and he keepeth the things that are not in himself. He is the God beyond all name, the unmanifest, he the most manifest, he whom the mind alone can contemplate. He visible to the eyes as well. He is the one of no body, the one of many bodies, nay, rather, he is of everybody. So now think about this. You want to be pious and you want to be spiritual, and you was a Christian and you knew what the deal was. Do you realize that every human you encounter, you are encountering God, and you disrespect yourself, and you disrespect him when you disrespect a human? Do you know how mindless we are about disrespecting other humans? It's unfathomable. I have people that look at me and they go, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, I can't help you. If you can't see it, I can't help you. If you see it, there's help. But if you can't see it, you just need to continue on until something in you wakens up and you can see. Because we are all source. That piece they also have right. And so, he is the God beyond all name. He, the unmanifest. He, the most manifest. He whom the mind alone can contemplate. He's visible to the he visible to the eyes as well. He is the one of nobody, the one of many bodies, nay rather, he of everybody. So it actually is a true statement, and I love this, how many pieces of Yeshua's teachings are really getting validated for me. I love Yeshua more than I ever did. I don't care a thing about Jesus, but I love Yeshua. He was an amazing spirit guy. But didn't he tell us that? He said, when you see me, you've seen the Father. You know what you guys were thinking? Most of you were thinking that somehow he was God. And he is. But so are you. He just simply knew that everything exists in source. And if you are alive, you are part of source. But you also are obligated to all the rest of source, which is everything that exists. That's why you find often in the ancient writings, and it is going to come to pass to us, we are going to pay a price for what we've done to the earth. The humans that exist here now. And, dear friend, you just can't get away from it. It was that important, and yet we let ourselves be led astray with all of these other things. And there's been a big, if you want to, conspiracy to deceive humanity. We know who does that, the archons. And so if you can break people and then send them back in broken and tell them they needed to fix themselves, then you pretty much got the deal done. Because they ain't ever going to fix themselves, because they're not broken. And so, he is himself both things that are and things that are not. The things that are, he hath made manifest. He keepeth things that are not in himself. He is the God beyond all name. Nothing is there which he is not. For all he, and he is all. So if you thought that I was telling you some mistruth when I've been telling you these things, because to people who don't know any of this, it's very, very mind-boggling if you actually have a heart to try to learn something. And it's okay. It's okay to be overwhelmed. Just don't stop. And for this cause had he all names, in that they are one Father. And for this cause hath he himself no name, in that he's Father of them all. Who then may sing the praise of thee, or praise to thee? Whether again am I to turn my eyes to sing thy praise above, below, within, or without? I'm so glad it was written like that, because it absolutely speaks what I've been talking about. Most of you probably have no idea. There is no way, no place is there about thee, nor any other thing of things that are. All are in thee, all are from thee. O thou who givest all and takest naught, for thou hast all, and naught is there thou hast not. Now, I would like to say this with that. Do you think that maybe you would have lived a different life if you had the perspection that's being put in front of you right now? Do you know how many people crave and clamber themselves into death and unhappiness trying to be something because they have no idea that they are something? They treat people like shit because they think that that's good because they somehow must be better than those people. Yeah. It's destroyed more, and it's destroying more. You want to know what the collapse is in our society? The collapse in our society is people are getting further away from the truth of who they are and the truth of who everyone else is. While we have some people over here that actually are trying to tell people at least that piece, that we are all one. So there is a war that's raging right now. Unfortunately, most will never get it. We heard me and Dave were watching a teaching the other night, and we heard the ancient beliefs tell us that out of every 10,000 people there on this earth right now, there are 80,000 groups of that. There are 8 billion people on this earth right now. And out of every 10,000 people, only 7 people will walk through and go to the light. 7 out of 80,000. Out of 10,000. Wow. So when I say this is the most precious gift any human could give, you guys have no. You'll never make enough money in 1,000 lifetimes to pay me for what I've shared tonight. Never. So, all are in thee, all are from you. I'm telling you, this is revolutionized life stuff. O thou who givest all and taketh nothing, for thou hast all, and naught is there thou hast not. So really what we have, and I understand why the manifestation and stuff is selling, because we've lost our connection to who we are. That's really what they're selling you. They're selling you under a pattern that you can learn how to do this. And the patterns, I've read lots of them, and there's a lot of truth, but when you cut through the end of it, it's really not about the pattern. It's really about the ability to be able to understand and then to use mentally the things which they put in front of you, which is, I am God, and nothing isn't mine. Everything is mine. Because of I am His, and He is me. And when you begin to do that, you begin to walk into a different world. That's why we're moving into a time of kingship again. Men are going to grow, learn, and separate themselves from everything that is lesser than them. Okay? Because as you do that, you understand now who is and who isn't, what is and what isn't. So you now can make an educated decision about what is. And it's already happening. And so, all are in thee, all are from thee. Verse 11, when, O Father, shall I hymn thee? For none can seize thy hour or time. For what again shall I sing him? For things that thou hast made, or things that thou hast not? For things thou hast made manifest, or things that you have concealed? How further shall I hymn thee, as being of myself, as having something of my own, as being other? For that thou art whatever I may be. Thou art whatever I may do. Thou art whatever I may speak. And so then I'm going to move and finish. We'll be at in God alone is good, and everywhere else nowhere. For thou art all, and there is nothing else which thou art not. I used to ask at the church, because we would see the all, and I asked my congregation, I said, so when are you going to start understanding, or when are you going to start actually, although I was saying lots of things, I was using Christianese words, but basically, when are you going to start believing that all really means everything? Most people don't think all means everything. Friends, all means everything. You and everyone else. And everything else that exists that you know about and that you have no knowledge of. It's all His, and it's all Him. And so, for thou art all, and there is nothing else which thou art not. So if it exists, seen or unseen, is irrelevant, because it's still him. Thou art all that which doth exist, and thou art all which does not exist. Mind when thou thinkest, and Father when thou makest, and God when thou dost energize, and good, and maker of all things. For that the subtler part of matter is in the air, of air the soul, of soul the mind, and of mind God. So when I led you guys to the Kabbalion maybe 2 years ago, and you heard that everything is mind, there's a reason why that was said. So, for those who haven't really done very much studying, I gave a lot of truth there. Some of it may have washed you over, and if you got overwhelmed, it's not an end of the world flood. The water dissipates relatively fastly, and you only have what your mind can retain. And so, but the good news is if you retain that by intention, then your mind will grow and Source will bring the flood again. The flood in that concept is an amazing thing. Of course, you know that the flood that came to the earth came through the will of God. And so there's many things that are going to come out, and you're going to go, wow, I just find that really hard to believe that that's who this kind, benevolent God is. But that's because you have a false picture of what God is. And so for those that get the right picture, things begin to line up, and they begin to sync in coherence and alignment. When Source told me that day that it is all about alignment, us aligning our thoughts with his thoughts. And if we keep having our own thoughts and we keep doing things our own way, you keep working by yourself. Source is very clear about that. I'm not here to do your will. And if you're not here to do mine, then go do whatever you want to. I don't care. And that's pretty profound teaching right there, folks. Well, blessings to each and every one of you. I wonder how many of you that'll come along and hear this, I wonder how many of you might, in some gentle way tomorrow, wake up and have a glow inside of you, maybe that you haven't had. I know I get them all the time. I wake up and I go, damn, I'm special. It's amazing to realize that we've been lied to, but the lie can be dissipated. If you've lived in those places, all of those psychological things that have been imposed to you were never meant for you. You just refuse to let them go. That's why I preach so much about shadow work. Shadow work is simply about letting go all the things that you really are, that you lie to yourself about that you're not. And ego is the biggest one. That's why egotistical people seldom grow. It's bad. Bad, bad. So, peace and shalom to each and every one of you. I hope some of you will take this and turn it into something that vitalizes your life. We're not nothing. In fact, we are quite something. We're not weak. In fact, we're quite powerful. But we have to believe that, and we have to function in that. And so I hope some of you will come along, enjoy it for the ride. It's going to be earth shaking here very soon. Shalom and namaste.